Hi, Elsie from Nutriford Lifestyle Center. Today we shall be talking about a very important topic, mental health. A lot of us get so bothered or are majorly concerned with physical health, but our mental health is equally as important as our physical health. And if not properly managed, it affects every aspect of our lives. Things are difficult. Some of the things that affect our mental health are the economy, how bad the economy is or how good the economy is. We could have marriage, relationship issues. We could have children issue, upbringing. We could have lack of income. It could be hunger, it could be disease, or just anything that keeps you thinking, that unbalance you emotionally. We would particularly focus on how to actually survive in these hard times and ensure a balanced mindset. The truth is that as we continue to live, things will keep getting bad. Everybody is a witness. Even little children know that things are not as good as they were before. And it is very certain that things will keep getting bad. We cannot expect a better tomorrow. We can only have a better tomorrow when we have a relationship with our creator. That's the only thing that can make a difference. But economically, relationship wise, you can be certain that things will never get better. Food is expensive. You go to the market, the things you used to buy with very little money, today you have to spend a lot of money to get it. You don't talk about how expensive gas is. You don't talk about how expensive firewood is. You don't talk about how expensive foodstuff is. In fact, right now, people could hardly, especially those that work and depend on salary, you realize that one can hardly buy a bag of foodstuff with one's 1 month salary. That is how bad things have become. So how do we do? This is affecting our health emotionally. You see irritability. You see people having short temper in the home. Mothers are not always at peace with the children. Husband and wife are always having fracas as a result of all these things. But is there a way out? That's what we should be talking about, or that's what we should be exploring. Is there a way out? The truth is that God has a perfect plan for everybody. There are principles that are laid down for God's children, and if we practice them, we can be certain that people will be crying of hunger, people will be crying of economic hardship, but we would be comfortable. Not because we are rich, but because we have learned to manage the resources that God has entrusted in our hands. One of those things is using our hands to cultivate the things we eat. God never created us to live in cities, in places that are overpopulated. You realize our cities today are overpopulated. You could hardly see a free space that one can use for cultivation, and that is where a lot of us are trooping to. We want to live in the cities. We want to live, where a lot of people are. Nobody wants to live in the village or in the country. But that's not God's plan for us. The plans of God are that we would live in places that are less populated, where we can acquire land that are still cheap, and then we have enough space to cultivate what we eat. Because we depend so much on what is sold in the market, that is why a lot of us are suffering today. Now, assuming you work as a civil servant and your salary is 200,000, a bag of maize right now in Nigeria, of course, costs nothing less than 60,000 naira. A bag of rice is almost about 70,000 naira, or even more than that. Now, these are not the only food articles you need to consume as a family. There are other expenses. So you realize that your salary cannot afford to give you what you want. But if you live in a country where you can cultivate most of the things you consume, your expenses will be lessened. All right. And you have little dependence on what is sold in the market. So in case you've never given that a thought, begin to think about it. City life is not the best. All right, not to talk of the pollution, the moral degradation in the city and the rest of them. But the call for us today is come out of the cities and move out to the countries, move out to less populated villages where you can cultivate your own food. Of course, talking about cultivating your own food, you also have control over what you produce. Whatever is taken to the market, you do not know how it is produced. A lot of chemicals, a lot of pesticide and the rest of them. But if you move out and you have a space to cultivate, you can decide on what to cultivate. You can decide on how to cultivate it. Of course, organically grown foods are always richer and superior to other ones that are not organically grown. So give that a thought. And in case you live in the city and you have a little space, you have to think out of the box. If you do not have land to cultivate, you have to think of how to start sack gardening. You have to think of how to, do horizontal gardening with little space. No matter how little you're able to get at the end of the day, it is far better than cultivating nothing. Now, apart from gardening, all right, there are other things we can do, and that is prepping. A lot of us complain today, not because we're not blessed by God, but because we have not learned to manage the resources that God has given us. We spend as we earn. Okay, immediately money comes into our hands, we don't think of saving, we don't think of investing on things that matter, and so we just spend like that. Anything that gets our attention, we spend on it. Then in no distant time, we begin to regret. If I knew I would have done this, if I knew I would have done that. But then the issue is that if you would learn to channel your resources appropriately, you would live beyond want and borrowing. Not because you earn much, not because you have you have extra sources of income. When you go out, for instance, and you take a bike or you take a commercial vehicle and you have a change of maybe 50 naira rather, or 100 naira, what do you use it for? Do you just buy granite on the way because you have seen granite, someone selling granite, and it catches your attention? Or you have made a list of things that are important in your home. Okay, I need to stock on detergent. I need to stock on my children's school fees. I need to stock on buying foodstuff. You make a list of them. And so whatever careless money comes, no matter the amount, is you channel it. I have 15 naira today. I just buy a box of matches and keep. Tomorrow someone just dash me or gives me a gift of maybe 5,000 naira. I get some measures of rice and I keep. Another day, I do an extra work and then I'm able to get 200 naira. I buy a bar of soap and keep. And that is how I keep adding and adding and adding, not waiting until all these essentials finish in my home before I restock. Okay, now when you learn to channel your money that way, you realize that in no distant time, you have a pile of supplies that the rich man may not boast of. I've heard of a woman, a single mother, who was living from hand to mouth, struggling to feed her family. But when she caught this principle and idea, she began to stock, she began to restock, prepping. When she goes out and she can get something for free, she comes back and arrange it and keep. When someone gives her something, she keeps. In few years, this woman had a pantry of things, of food she had preserved that was to sustain her for years. It means that even if she has started stocking for some years, she had food that will sustain her for more than 10 years. This is a single mother who had no flow or regular flow of income. If she could do it, you can also do it too. It doesn't matter how much your salary is. Now, we must learn to save for rainy days. There's this urge to spend always as we earn. Somebody may earn 20,000 naira and then every month he's able to save something out of it. But anyone that does not have that mindset would always spend 20,000 naira completely and even look for extra, even borrow. All right. There are some things that are not necessary. There are some things that we can do without. They may look as if, yes, we need to do them. But the truth is that when you look at them critically, you realize that they are not do or die affairs. So we must learn to save. We must learn to, to keep things in order. We must learn to spend on things that really matter and not just on anything. Another thing that can help us, with balanced mental health is having a very good relationship with God. Without God, nothing is important. Nothing is possible. God is the only one that can give us peace. God is the only one that can give us wisdom. God is the only one that can actually direct our path. He says we should trust in Him. And God is able to sustain us if we trust in Him and follow the principles that are laid down by Him. I hope this is helpful to someone. I hope that someone will share a testimony tomorrow that I used this and today I am happy. Today my family is happy and today we have food security and we're even able to help other people. Give that a try. It doesn't cost anything. Thank you.